Everybody, super excited to be here at InnovateQA today, and that was a great intro. Thank you so much. Saved us a couple of minutes doing it ourselves. So yeah, Bhaumik and I are here today to talk about Amazon Nova Act and how it can be used in QA automation use cases. So what's that going to look like? I'll start kind of introduction, Amazon Nova Act, get you familiar with the product, understand how it works, how it can be used. Bhaumik's going to do a quick demo and then talk about QA automation for a little bit. And then I'll jump into a demo for QA automation, and we'll go from there. So what is Amazon Nova Act, and how might it be useful for QA automation? So put simply, Amazon Nova Act is an AI model trained to perform actions in a web browser. So at its core, it's capable of taking a natural language input, looking at the browser and understanding its environment that it's in, and actuating it to complete tasks. So kind of can go anywhere from there. So it's been trained to understand common UI components and page elements and interacts with websites and web pages just like a human would. So it uses what the browser looks like to understand what actions to perform. So for example, if you're on an e-commerce website and you search for a product, it's going to recognize, okay, I see a web page, I see a search bar as indicated by maybe the icon next to it. I'm going to enter some text in there, click search. And it's not done yet. It's going to then validate after that happens that it's actually completed the task. So it's capable of reasoning about its actions, and if it doesn't complete something, it will error and say, hey, like I couldn't complete the task, which can come in handy in QA automation. So it's currently available in research preview, free for use currently, and it's available as an SDK. So it'll integrate directly in existing tooling that you might have. So talk a little bit more about some of its characteristics. So you might be thinking, like, how is this different from other AI models in the market? There's a lot of things that do similar things. And we believe that Nova Act excels in areas where maybe other models might come up short, specifically kind of related to QA automation, which we'll get into a little bit later. But the biggest thing that we focused on when building the model is consistency. So a lot of these other models kind of come up short when it comes into super complex, long-running tasks. Right, you might have a big chat window where you enter a huge prompt and you click go and it just does things and you're like hoping it completes the task. So we've designed Nova Act kind of from the ground up to be consistent, where it's capable of taking a step or a task, breaking it down into multiple steps that are easy to reason about, and doing it very, very well. So you might be kind of taking the next step and thinking, okay, maybe I can integrate with my user stories or my test cases to maybe automate some of my testing, and that's a very good use case for Nova Act, because typically those are already written with super high detail, and that's kind of exactly what Nova Act excels at doing. So on top of the consistency, like I mentioned, it's available as an SDK, so you can really use that to automate your existing workflows, because it integrates directly in your existing pipelines or whatever code bases you might have. So you can imagine maybe this running in a CI/CD pipeline, in parallel, multiple tests, all at the same time, right alongside whatever else you got running through your pipelines. But probably the most important thing that this SDK form factor gives that maybe other models don't is you have full control. So you can imagine a script running where it's intertwining other code. In addition to what you're telling the model to do on the browser, you can also maybe reach out to a database and grab some information and then use that, for example, maybe to fill out a form, right? And then kind of on the flip side of that, you can do some web scraping, grab some unstructured data, turn it into structured data, and then pipe that off somewhere else, either maybe for a form or maybe just kick off an event for another agent to perform the action. So it's really powerful when you start to intertwine multiple steps together that are really good. You can create super long workflows that are reliable. So jumping into some of the things I already kind of talked about, but I'll touch on it a little bit more. One of the bigger benefits is this SDK, right? So you can parallelize all your tasks together. So for example, with Python, it's got a thread pool. You can run multiple browser sessions at the same time to perform multiple tests. In addition, we have the structured output. So you can ask for things back in JSON schemas. We'll show a demo of that today. And then it's also available on Ubuntu, macOS, and Windows, pretty typical operating systems where you're running these QA workflows anyway. In addition, being a browser native SDK, you can benefit from a lot of things like pre-authenticated workflows. You can run it headlessly. You might, while you're prototyping, develop it in headed mode, but then once you have something working reliably, put it in headless mode, put it in a VM, kick it off however you want, and it'll run reliably. Other than that, another big benefit, particularly in QA, is the recorded sessions. So, as this thing's running, it's taking screenshots, high detailed logs, and also videos. So if something breaks, maybe in your QA pipeline, you can go in and check out why exactly what happened, see what the agent saw. So we'll go into that a little bit more with a demo later on. So how good is the model? So these are some internal benchmarks that we ran. And again, I want to reiterate that NovaAct is really focused on reliable building blocks that can be composed into more complex workflows. So these benchmarks you're seeing here are all we did in-house against tasks that NovaAct is really good at doing, smaller, succinct steps that can be strung together. So many agents benchmarks measure model performance for high-level tasks where the state-of-the-art models are successful 30 to 60% of the time. But agents must be reliable to truly be useful. So that's why we focused on scoring greater than 90% on our own internal evals, as seen here. And the model does pretty well, and it's getting better every week. So it's something that we strive for to be super, super reliable. And yeah, we can jump into a demo now.
Cool. I'm Bhaumik, I'm a software engineer. Thanks, Ryan, for a nice intro. I think we touched base on many of the good things for the NovaAct, such as the SDK, the reliability, the access to use Python native library and work with common features that we use, and just build NovaAct into the common workflows. So we'll see a common script. Assuming Ryan really likes coffee maker, that's why we have this coffee maker script here. So we're gonna go to Amazon.com and try to search for a coffee maker. We'll try to get first 3 examples results and see if we can work around the NovaAct and get the cheapest one. There are multiple ways we can go do this. And I think we're gonna do a simple one here where we search for coffee maker, and we'll get we'll give the model the image. The model will work with the image and see, hey, there's a search bar where we need to go and type coffee maker. There's a button that we need to click and see if I can get some results. Now here is where it gets complicated, where we can see we have some results, but I don't know what names and the prices. The model needs to understand and figure out and think, hey, I see those things, but I don't see the price. So maybe I need to go and search or scroll. And we'll see that in action. And it scrolls up a few pixels, just enough to get the images, names, and the prices here. And here, you'll be able to see the thought process and the results that we get. Let's pause it just a second here. So here we expected the model to give us, hey, I don't want just random strings. I want a structured schema of the results. So we are expecting, hey, get us a list of name and price, and then we'll just work with the information what we get. And if you can see here, we got a schema, and as expected, we got a list. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just sort it and say, hey, just give us the cheapest one. And then we can throw that back to the model and see if it's going to figure it out. What we expect is, hey, give us the $19 one, and it's going to go there, click it, and get us more information. Ideally, I think this is going to be, we can also ask models, hey, go and give us the cheapest one from the first 3. But we also wanted to show that how we can work with the schema and get us the cheapest one. Okay. One other cool information is, okay, we went through this whole workflow. Now, how do we debug this? So we have this viewer that we spit out at the end of each act, as we can see here. Each act is basically, we're throwing some prompt to the model and giving opportunity for the model to deal with the browser, get images, think through, take action, and give us an output. So each act that we went through will give us a list of images and list of prompts, and that's what we can see here. You'll see, hopefully you can see this red bounding box. So this is basically the action that the model is asking us to take. That, hey, go here, I see a search bar, type there, and then I also see a button that you need to click, so we can go to the next step. Keep going. Yep, this is where it gets complicated, so that model says, hey, I need to get first 3 results, but I don't see them. So if I think I need to scroll some more. I think that's what the model is saying. We'll scroll down to get more information for each of this. And it's going to get us the list of, so basically this is like working with extraction feature, understanding the location of it, thinking through, maybe I need to scroll, which is basically what we think as a human to see, I don't see anything, maybe we should scroll. I think these are the things which is setting Nova Act good for the QA use case, where we have control over what are the user prompts we can use and how much control we're going to go back to give back to the model and the user. So we could have also done, hey, search for coffee maker, get us the 3 results, and give us cheapest one. And when you give such a long task, there is a chance where we could complicate and the model could go and hallucinate, where we also give user to go fine tune what their prompt can be and just break it down in a simpler fashion, so that in terms of QA, it gives us more control back to user to verify each and every step. Good. Okay, so I think one good thing we can talk about this is how it is low maintenance, whereas you don't have to learn of more tools to just work with it. Probably Python and some third-party libraries around working around the Nova Act SDK should be enough. And Python SDK, it simplifies the QA journey that you want to take. And it gives you efficient sessions. I think what I think Ryan already mentioned, right? We can parallelize this. So we can use Python native library to create this script, parallelizes, sorry about that, and so try and search for multiple products at the same time, collect the results, provide a JSON schema, and then go about it. You think we're good?
Yeah, one other thing to add is non-deterministic nature of Nova Act, right? If you're thinking about playwright scripts or Selenium, it's super deterministic, right? If a developer changes some data attribute, suddenly all the tests break. Where this is not really a problem with Nova Act, because it's not deterministic at all. It's just using what it sees and deciding what action to take, and that's it. So if you change things around on the page, you might move where the button goes. You might change, maybe it's further down on the page. The same Nova Act scripts are going to work because the button, it still is able to decide, okay, the button might have moved, I still see a button, test pass. Or maybe I need to scroll, I see the thing I saw before, okay, good to go. So there's not really any issues where maintaining tests can become kind of a nightmare at times. I'm sure as a lot of people here are aware, a lot of that kind of disappears because it's not really dependent on any specific code to the DOM or anything like that. It's just whatever it sees on the browser.
Yeah, I think we'll go to a GitHub repository that we have put together. That's going to enable you to quickly start using this, probably within half an hour of downloading, pip installing, and just getting hands-on experience on it.
Okay, there we go. It's going to be hard. You have to look and drive this way, but yeah. So we've got being a Python SDK, we can implement wrappers for it. So we have right here a PyTest plugin that uses PyTest HTML. So if anyone here is familiar, you can run your PyTest test right in Python and generate an HTML report. And those HTML files we were looking at before, we've got a plugin here that will actually integrate those into your PyTest test reports, right? So as these things are running in your pipeline, something breaks, you can go in and check it out. And we'll go through a demo here in a second. This is available on PyPy today. You can just install. We also got a GitHub repo. We got everything at the end of the slides. Also come see us at our booth and get your hands on it. So here is a repository that uses that package and adds some wrappers on the Nova Act SDK for QA use cases. So I'm going to jump into the code real quick just to show what that might look like. So I've got some tests that run on the QA Innovate's website. So these are super simple, just for demonstration purposes. But you can see here we get a reference to NovaAct. It's just a PyTest fixture that you can then get a reference to, and these all run in parallel. So here's one, just am I on the InnovateQA landing page, right? So just validating this URL goes to the right place. We can extract data and validate it, right? So the conference date is June 5th, 2025, and the location is this, right? So you can come down here and a little bit more complexity here. We're getting into some more JSON data structures. These are like the columns on the schedule of the website I'm sure you all are familiar with. And then also some form validation, right? So somewhere at the bottom of that page, you can click and get some contact information or send a message. And this last line here validates that there's an input validation error message because it didn't enter anything in the email, it just hit send. So just as another kind of QA example again. Super simple, but I think it gets the point across.
And
so
one good thing about this is like while using NovaAct SDK, you're free to use any of the open source library that out there for the PyTest, and PyTest also has other libraries that can use to improve your reporting, parallelize the scripts, and mark, label the test when you want to run it, such as canary test or unit test. So those things are free to use those, which gives users the power to just not lock down on, hey, if you're using our SDK, you cannot use anything else. That this enables you to go and explore anything that's out there.
Awesome. So to take this one step further, we have this running in a GitHub pipeline as a GitHub action. So this is just the YAML file. If anyone's used GitHub Actions before, this probably looks pretty familiar. Any kind of pipeline probably has some sort of YAML-like language to define your pipelines. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. So this is pretty straightforward, right? We're just using some built-ins for GitHub to set up Python. We're installing some packages here. And the interesting part is really a little bit further down where we actually run the tests, right? So this is where we're using NovaAct and the packages we just described to run the tests, right? So we're getting a URL or a relative path to where the report's going to be generated. We'll look at an HTML report in a second. We're just seeing how many CPUs are on the VM that we're using so that we can spread the tests out across it equally so they can run in parallel. And then we're also going to upload the report when it's done. These are all just built-in natives for GitHub. So I've got a pull request open that we can take a look at. And we can see it failed. And there's a reason for that. And so we'll go in and we'll look at why it failed. So we're coming into here, and this is that YAML we were looking at. This is kind of the output of it. And we can see we ran our tests, we uploaded the report, and then we're checking the results to fail or pass the pipeline, right? So what we could do is come into the report and actually look at what failed. So this is just going to download the HTML, the PyTest HTML report with our plugin. And let me grab that.
The event is supposed to be tomorrow in this one.
Sorry, what was that?
The event is supposed to be tomorrow. Is that the error?
Oh, no, close. Good guess. Good guess. Let me see.
Extra points if you can guess what was the change in the QA in the website recently.
This doesn't look right. Oh, this is the wrong one.
Your browser is out of date.
Shh, don't tell security that. Sorry, 1 second. Here we go. No, that's still the wrong one. Sorry, well, it wouldn't be a live demo if something didn't break. Let me just go back into it. Looks right.
While our friend is looking for the right report, I think what we can talk more about is, so this report, we can see it is not also something that NovaAct offers. This is also another third-party library that we're using to generate it. And what we have created a PyTest HTML NovaAct library, which works along with another third-party library that just picks up the HTML file that we saw before and puts it inside the report. So that every time a test fails, you don't have to go looking for the why it failed. You just pop it open, and just see that, hey, okay, let me see which screenshot and what prompt doesn't work, and what is the model thinking about this, and why is the reasoning not working, and then what's the output right there and then.
Yeah.
Are we good?
I see
Yeah.
that you've added Playwright as part of the dependencies in the GitHub action. What would we use Playwright for?
So Playwright is used for the actuation. So when model says, hey, this is the bounding box, I want to click here, that's when the SDK and the browser plays together and clicks on it, enters the text that the model outputs,
So
and then, yeah.
So you use Playwright under the hood for
Correct.
the
Correct.
interactions.
Yes, so you bring up a good point. So that is not just for SDK. So if you think model is not doing something right where I want it to, it's a little complex, you can grab handle of the Playwright object from SDK and do it yourself the way you do it with the Playwright, and then go back to using the model itself. So it's like a combination of script can be a combination of Playwright plus LLM conversation.
Okay, so apologies, I don't know what's happening with the pipeline, but this is an example output, pretty similar. They all pass, so not as a great example as I was hoping to do, but this is just an example of actually our NovaAct webpage. So this is, you can get started today, by the way, we'll have links later, but this is an example of what a report would look like. So we can see that the test passed, and we can see, again, these are the reports we just were looking at a few minutes ago. But what's powerful about this is typically when there is a failed test, this last one here is what happened, and that would be a failure. So what I was going to show was the address of the conference changed. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but it said it was Seattle and it's changed to this town. And so the test would have failed for that. I was going to go in and show that we could fix it and push it in the pipeline, but unfortunately it's not working. I'll probably have it fixed.
Is it Wi-Fi?
It might be the Wi-Fi, but come by the booth later and I'll probably give you a better demo. So apologies about that. So let's get back to presentation.
How are you doing on time?
We have
Few minutes.
plenty of time.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that is about it. Feel free to scan this. Also, it's all at our booth. You can get started today. It's free. You just need your Amazon.com retail account. I'll probably have one. I'll get out of the way so everyone can.
And this takes you to, as you can see, NovaAct, amazon.com/act. This is where you will be able to download the NovaAct SDK, create an API key. You just need to log in with your Amazon.com account, and API key is for now, for next few months, it's going to be free to use. It's a research preview. It does come with a couple of TPS and TPM limits for the day, but I think for the research preview, it should be fine with those limits.
Cool. And some additional resources here. All the sample code we just looked at, that repository, again, I'll have the pipeline fixed in a little bit. And we also have some resources that you want to learn more about NovaAct. We've got some blog posts, YouTube videos, and anything else you might need to get started.
Are you going to release a TypeScript APK?
It's a good question. I think so far for next few months we don't have that on roadmap, but yes, adding more library or more language support is something on the roadmap. Yep.
Yeah, so feel free to have question time. Yes?
Since it's using Playwright, is Playwright how it would manage authentication then? Could you, or does it not have full access to Playwright's features?
Yeah, so it should have full access to Playwright features, right? So that the user data directory is typically where all that authentication and session cookies, all that stuff is used. So you can actually NovaAct by default creates a temporary user data directory, and we'll delete it when it's done. But you can make it so that
Yeah, you can also provide your already existing data directory to the Nova SDK, and that will pass it off to Playwright for you to use.
So it can also for all test data, not just something that we would need as secrets like user credentials, but we could. That was my next question: was how does it handle test data?
yeah, so test data you can load yourself, right? It's a Python SDK, so if you have like Excel sheets or maybe some JSON file on a server, you can read that in, right in your Python code, and then pass that into NovaAct SDK however you want to. So, yes.
Can you do any kind of like non-functional testing like this with this? Like for example, can you read the text on this button and stuff like that?
Yes, yes, definitely. So the whole point of extraction kind of feature is like, hey, As you saw on the Amazon, that hey, show me give me the first three, and that is actually extracting the information from the image, the names, the price, and you can give hey, not just give me the information, give me in this format, like name, title, so you can directly use it for your next step.
Okay.
So the simple answer is yes, and complicated is you can do much more with it.
Okay. Follow-up question. Can you run this on different browsers? Like for
I'll
example,
take that.
Chrome, if I want to do the same test in Chrome and Firefox and Safari again.
Good question. So for now, since InnovateQA is research preview,
Yes.
this is one thing that we are going to look into
Okay.
in upcoming months. But so today, no.
Okay.
Just Chromium today, so Edge. Chrome.
Okay. So you're relying on it.
You have a question
I'm
there?
going to ask an incredibly unfair question. I will start with a compliment. 90% accuracy on this benchmark is actually pretty good.
Thanks.
Like, that's amazing.
Thank you.
But I'm looking at that slide. 90% accuracy, and then 3 bullets down, stable execution, reduce flakiness, AI. Like 10%. If my plane crashed 1 out of 10 times, I would not say that was accurate. At the same time, state of the art, literally 90% is actually like literally industry amazing. So how do you square that circle of like, what's the delta between? I don't even know what I'm asking. It's like, maybe a better, actually forming this into a question. How do you get from the 90% to the 100%? And then maybe the second one, is that even important? Is it 90% on that benchmark and that's just an equal playing field, but in reality it's actually pretty good already for testing? Or should I consider it 90% accurate for anything?
I can answer part of it. I think one good question you raised, like, is that even important? I mean, that's a question that's very subjective. Like, as a
Right.
user, 10%, if my 90% of the cases are failing and 10% is something that I think I can manage with, yes. But to a longer answer, yes, we're working towards and marching towards 100%, but that's where we need, like, where is user failing?
Right.
Like, we could get here by 90% understanding, okay, what we can do, but 10% is like, okay, we have to know real scenarios where model is not doing so good. And then what we do is we train model on those cases and just do 1% at a time, go towards 100%.
Depends on the model.
I guess it's like self-driving cars. So it's like, if it's better than the humans, then it's better than the humans, right? So
Right.
if flaky testers like, oh, well, that was manually crafted tests, and that's 80%. Like, well, 90% is actually better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually is an upgrade. We don't have a benchmark for the human
Right.
tests,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I just didn't know how to interpret the 90%.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and kind of to Bhaumik's point, it's something that is being worked on like every day. The model's
Right.
improving their bi-weekly or more frequently releases where we're testing things like this. Internally, we're training the model all day, every day.
Can you just suppose, like, what's your next, how do you carve off the next 1% improvement? That's proprietary.
Yeah,
sure, but
yeah. It's not really something.
Like
it's
you
just
share
the
some-
generative nature of AI, right?
Got
You're
it.
training models. It's kind of the same
Yes,
thing as
sure.
the rest of generative AI world.
Okay.
Great question.
Yeah, like if you have similar
Sorry,
product,
feedback.
yeah, if you have similar product questions, we have 2 great people from our team, and you can find us our booth, and they can answer your product questions. Okay.
Say I want to take my pre-existing Cypress testing suite and port it over. Do you have best recommendations for doing that?
Yeah, so I think one good thing we are working towards is having to, like all NOAA models, having to speak the SDK. So you say, hey, I have this website, just create a script using InnovateQA, and this is where your case would be like, hey, this is my Cypress test. I want NOAA SDK to do my exact same test. Can you create it? So it's just basically a code gen question and not.
So I guess maybe there's a little bit of not enough description behind what the test is actually doing in the script itself. Is there a way that you can take screen recording, say a video of that test running, and then translate that into a prompt?
You want to take that?
Yes, yeah, it's something actually we've been testing internally recently. So the Nova suite of models, if anyone's not familiar, InnovateQA is just one of a few Nova models at Amazon. And what we've been trying out is that exactly. So kind of like watching a user do the action, feeding a system prompt to Nova Premiere, which is one of our best models, and saying, write me a NovaAct script that follows this video. And it's doing pretty good at that. So that's definitely something we're thinking about. And just today, not today, but like the current state, we're trying it out and it's working, so we're going to keep putting effort into that to make that a little bit better.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it also identify the colors and other things also?
Yeah, it's good at it. So we're getting better at it. But yes, the simple example would be, do you see a red button on the bottom corner? And if so, what does it say? It's going to be it's going to do a good job on responding with the string.
Got it. And adding to that, does it also identify any of the non-visible things, let's say behind the screen, let's say if there is a drop down which is hidden, does it actually identify what are you see that drop downs?
No, so I think we rely heavily on what we see as a human. Also, like if we don't see the drop down, unless we click on it and it drops down. I think that's the closest I can say. But there's no, like, we're not really relying on DOM or any other things that's not visible to the model.
So only the visible part.
Yes. Which also is good because that model, it's like whatever you see it, you can test it. Whatever is not there, then you have to find a workaround. Maybe use Playwright or find other way to do it.
Can it do exploratory testing?
Can you
Can you
say?
ask it to do exploratory, like to just crawl, do whatever it wants with the UI?
Yeah, answer is yes. But again, and when we are talking about a model, that can go anywhere, right? So, but the model, yes, that's a simple answer. But yes, that's something we're also looking at. Like, hey, this is a website. Get more information from whatever information you can get, and then it will just draw its own trajectories. So that's yes possible, but it's not easy to benchmark on those things, like how good at it. Like what, as a user also, I don't know, I can go here and land, but there is no straightforward path that I also expect. You cannot test against it. Like how good is it?
There's a great white paper from a bunch of Amazon data scientists who created 1,000 different personalities with LLMs, and they threw it at the website, at the Amazon store. And so each personality has like special skills, special goals in mind, and so it's really been fascinating to watch how all the different personalities are used for exploratory testing, because they're given a pretty wide range of commands.
Thank you.
So, one question. Let's say that I do what you suggest, and I ask it to do exploratory testing on my website, and it goes and runs for 24 hours. Am I going to be charged by the usage for all the tokens that it's going to be generating?
Good question. So, do you want to take that?
Go ahead.
Good question. So there is a chance where models like, oh, I'm just going to explore, enjoy the whole day, right? And that's going to give you, like, we will send you a big bill. But you can stop that. So hey, this is a simple test. I don't think this is going to take more than 4 steps. So you say, hey, maximum steps 5. That's it. If it doesn't have any answer till 5 steps, it's going to fail. So you have control, like how much exploration you want to give the model to.
And the cost is also usually that because clicks that people see.
Cost?
Cost.
Yeah. So for now, go ahead.
Yeah,
take
it's
that.
free to use currently. That could change in the future, but right now it's free to try out. So if that were to happen, we would cover that cost.
I guess we have time for one more question. They do have a booth on the leadership near where the leadership sessions are. So we could take that one question and
It's just based on the same thought process. Is there a way that we can create an IAM role that would limit our organization, say an employee only has $10 of spend or something like that per day or something like that?
Yeah, in the future that will be possible, but today it's not using IAM or AWS. It's basically process today. You go to our website, log in with your Amazon retail account, and generate an API key. API key works with the SDK, and that's it. But in the future, yes, it would integrate AWS, and you could do maybe things like billing and stuff like that.
Yeah, as an AWS customer, you have like as much control as AWS offers for like user specific, org specific, and budget specific. You don't spend more than $1,000 a day, then it won't work past that. Yeah.
I guess if we're kind of using Bedrock already, so I don't know if
Yeah.
Bedrock has that already or not.
Cool. Yeah,
I
definitely stop
think-
by the booth and we can talk more.
Yeah, we can
Alright.
product people here can answer more questions around that.
sure. Yeah, that was an incredible presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for walking us through Amazon Nova.